Okay, well, we've reached the end of the game. I've played a couple of consecutive impulses for both the Germans and the Soviets, and I thought I'd just summarize them all together at the same time. Mostly the Russians just played a couple of passes. This one I could actually put back face up. Here's one of the passes they played. This one is important to point out. The Germans almost broke through here at a certain moment because they had two artillery dies and one Stuka die, and they did some damage. And at a certain moment, that area was down to only one infantry, which was down to one pip, but then they simply, on the next turn, they played another pass, which shouldn't have been allowed, by the way, because of course you can't use a pass to reinforce an engaged area. At least I don't believe you can. No engaged, so I shouldn't have done that. But okay, so fortunately, over here probably I still have an HQ, which could have done the same thing. So then I would have done it like this by activating this HQ, and would have achieved the same thing. Obviously, had I not had that HQ, that would have been impossible. Which color is this? Well, it's also the same blue one, otherwise I could have moved it in. Anyway, what I did is I put basically a full strength infantry in there, and any chance of breaking through that the Germans did have was, basically negated in that way. They attacked again and inflicted one more hit or something like that, but it would take ages to break through. They could even activate on the road to Leningrad a couple of more times to still get some fights in, but the Russians would just play passes in the meantime. They still have 3 units here, which, the Germans have a couple of infantry here. There's no way they would ever reach Moscow or do anything really worthwhile in cutting off any Russian troops, so I could have retreated all these and built a second wall of defense here. So there's no way that would have ended. Now, I already made a quick evaluation of the scenario in one of the previous videos, 1 or 2 videos ago. So I made a small analysis of what I think the Russians should have done differently. The Germans never should have allowed all these red units to be encircled. What they did is that they became overly bold, something that happens to me and some of the people I regularly play with more often in East-Run games, especially when playing the Germans. You think like, hey, this is really easy, it's a walk in the park, I'm just going to dash forward with my fast armored units. And then only you discover that you don't have a cohesive front line anymore, and your armored units, your armored spearhead gets cut off, and you find yourself in deep trouble, which is what happened here. That's maybe the only thing I'd still like to add. Obviously, this scenario has turned into a German win. They're in control of 5 victory areas. The Russians hold 2, so that's a minor victory or something like that. Decisive would be to have all 7. Well, that is very difficult, I think, but especially had the Russians drawn Zhukov, which they didn't. If they hadn't made the mistake of trying to hold on here for too long and just building a defensive line behind the river, which is, I think, what they should have done. And then they could have done even better, and for the Germans to achieve a decisive victory is then virtually impossible, especially considering the fact that in this particular case I think they did pretty well on the road to Leningrad. But overall, a very fun game, fun scenario as it played out as well. And we'll definitely revisit it again soon, and the next video I'll post is probably a quick review of the entire game.